my name's Anna Hart. Welcome to Journaling for Mental Health. I'm really thrilled to be making this workshop for POW with documentary filmmaker Rhyannon Hanbury. As a writer and broadcaster, I'm also a lifelong diary keeper. I've been keeping diaries since I was 9, and 2 years ago I published my travel memoir, Departures. Before we begin, let's talk a little bit about the benefits of journaling for mental health. It's very well documented and accepted right now that journaling helps us deal with the symptoms of depression. It helps us reduce stress and manage anxiety. And it does this by really providing a lovely opportunity for some positive self-talk, some affirmations. It helps us prioritize and kind of like address and confront our fears, our concerns, our anxieties. And it also helps us kind of chart any symptoms, because actually as humans we have really short memories, and it is easy to forget that 2 weeks ago we were on top of the world when we feel in the doldrums. Finally, journaling provides such a beautiful opportunity to let the imagination run free. It's a really playful practice. It should be a lot of fun. And really I hope that in this workshop you'll find one form of journaling that feels fun and freeing rather than a chore. There are many different ways of keeping a journal. So even if you are the sort of person that thinks journaling is not for me, I will never find the time to keep a diary, I've got a plan for you. The format of this workshop, I'm going to talk you through 4 different ways of keeping a journal. And the idea is that one of these will suit you. So let's go. The first form of journal keeping I'm going to talk to you about is classic journal keeping. That is when you have a beautiful book, you return to it every day or at least every week regularly. You talk about what's going on in your own life, you talk about what's going on in the world. And when we think about the kind of the famous diary keepers out there, Anne Frank, Samuel Pepys, Catherine Mansfield, Jane Austen, T.S. Eliot, you're sort of doing something similar. Obviously this makes it a little bit high pressure, but actually this form of journaling, if you can get into the habit of doing it, it ends up being quite rewarding. The first tip really when it comes to keeping a classic journal is to get your reader really clearly in mind. For example, Anne Frank, when she began to write as I think a 10-year-old, she addressed every diary entry to her imaginary friend, Kitty. Every entry began, "Dear Kitty." And Kitty was this perfect listener, someone that was hanging on her every word, wanted to know exactly what she was doing, what she had eaten that day. And I actually really learned an awful lot from reading Anne Frank's diaries. But this practice of writing for a sympathetic reader is something I still do. I still do when I write articles for magazines and newspapers. I picture my ideal writer, not someone who's going to sneer or scoff or point out any mistakes. And I really recommend that you get really, really clear on the person that you're writing for. It can absolutely be yourself in 20 years' time, or it could be your daughter, it could be an imaginary friend like Kitty, but you really want to get quite clear on the person that you're writing for, because this needs to feel like a dialogue. Ultimately, it's a dialogue with yourself. It's a real opportunity for you to have a conversation with yourself about what's going on and be really honest and quite probing. But you sort of need to feel like you're having a conversation with a really sympathetic dream listener. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. See how you get on. Grab a pen, grab a bit of paper. I'll give you a couple of prompt questions because I think that's always helpful. So perhaps start off by saying the first thought that was in my mind when my feet hit the ground was whatever, or I'm writing because so-and-so said this today and it made me feel this way. Perhaps you could use a news headline that you saw that really affected you or made you feel a certain way. Or you can just write down a really hilarious thing that happened or some funny text that somebody sent. But kind of get going and just let it flow from there. You've got 5 minutes, see what comes out. Well done for giving that a go. And hopefully you've seen how easy it is to actually write something when you're given a very, very specific question, very specific task. The second journaling practice I'm going to talk to you about is called morning pages. Doing the morning pages is a practice advocated by the American teacher and writer Julia Cameron in her book, The Artist's Way. The Artist's Way is a Bible for all sorts of writers, filmmakers, artists, and spiritualists and soul seekers and well-being enthusiasts around the world. The idea is that it is 3 pages, longhand, so pen to paper, of stream of consciousness writing that ideally you write first thing in the morning. The real key to morning pages is that you're not going to read it again. There is zero pressure. You don't need to write anything remotely literate. It doesn't need to have artistic merit. It can be a series of swear words. It can be misspelled. You're going to burn it afterwards, you're going to chuck it in the bin, you're going to flush it down the toilet. You never need to see it again. And the idea is that really takes the pressure off and you're able to empty your mind of all the kind of clutter that's perhaps accumulated as you slept during your dreams or the day before. And Julia Cameron's thesis is that until you purge the mind and clear the mind of this clutter, you aren't really capable of being particularly creative or productive. So you've got 5 minutes, put pen to paper and just let whatever comes out, come out. So how was that for you? I really hope you managed to get some words out and I hope it felt healthy to do so, quite cathartic, a bit of a relief. And as I said, even if that was a bunch of swear words in a row, you've done the practice. You have actually just cleared out some emotions, cleared out some thoughts. So well done for giving it a go. The third journaling practice that I want to share with you, I call writing on cue. So this is responding to very, very specific prompts, either in an app or in written form, but this is nothing like the free-flowing methods that you've seen before. So this really suits people that don't have much time, that really need a bit of a focus, and you're very much still doing the practice of journaling. You still reap all the benefits of journaling for mental health. It still prioritizes your thoughts. It still calls to mind the positive. You still get to express anything a little bit negative. But it really does suit people who, you're short of time and you really enjoy using your phone perhaps, and an app suits you. One of my favourite journaling apps is Nature Notes by Go Journally, which is a nature walks and nature appreciation app. And during the pandemic, this was actually the form of journaling that I used. Every day, the app prompts you to note down 3 beautiful things that you saw in nature that day. It's really nicely, gently done, and it never felt like I was being nagged by my phone. And the real beauty of this was it was very narrow parameters. I knew exactly what I had to do. I wasn't going to ramble or go off on one. It wasn't emotionally triggering. You're absolutely still putting down thoughts. You're recalling highlights of your day. It's helping order your thoughts, prioritize them. You're remembering what went well, what didn't. You're very much still doing the journaling practice. So don't underestimate the power of journaling apps. I also really recommend a journaling app called Gratitude, which is a gratitude journal. There is an awful lot of research out there about the benefits of a gratitude practice, which is essentially just remembering the highlights of your day. What are you grateful for? Because humans, we have short memories, and it is very easy to forget that beautiful thing that happened to you at 8 a.m. by 6 p.m. when a few crummy things have happened to you. So Gratitude is an app that I've definitely used periodically over the years, and I really recommend it. If the idea of responding to specific questions or cues is resonating with you, but you're pretty determined to get off screen and get a bit of a screen break, there's all sorts of lovely diaries out there on the market that pretty much do the same. And one of my favorites is a question a day, a different question every day for 5 years. And the joy of that again is it's only a few lines, it's a specific question, it's a surprise. There's no pressure to document the events of the world or unburden your soul or really provide a very thorough analysis of what's going on in your world right now. Writers respond best when we feel like we're part of a dialogue. The reason that we get nervous or the reason that we get writer's block is, I think, if we feel that we're not going to be heard. Either we're going to be read and misunderstood, or we're not going to be read at all, which is why I'm a big fan of anything that feels a bit more like a dialogue. And that's why this third practice, which is writing on cue, writing as a response to certain cues, I think is a really, really great entry point for diary keepers, and actually a really, really amazing practice just to continue throughout your life. So let's give it a go. I'm going to read 5 questions to you from this book, and you can just choose the one that you want to roll with. January 13th. Where do you want to travel next? March 17th. What new activity have you tried recently? July 5th. What is your motto? September 17th. What's your favourite snack foods? So just one of those should have vaguely appealed. You're like, oh yeah, I know about snack foods. Whichever one appeals most, I'm just going to give you 3 minutes. You really don't need long. Just write down a few lines about that in response to that question. Good luck. The first practice of hands-free journaling I'm going to tell you about is the full day audit, which is just taking a couple of minutes to go through everything that happened in your day chronologically. It really does soothe your mind. You remember little good bits. You're like, oh, I achieved that. Oh, I had that lovely conversation with so-and-so. Actually, my boss is really happy with me for this. And it's a really, really good 2-minute practice before you go to sleep. And I find it really, really helps me get off to a much more less anxious sleep. The second hand-free journaling hack I'm going to tell you about happens when you're brushing your teeth. And it's just recalling the 3 best things that happened to you that day. So you've got 3 minutes, plenty of time to think about it. Essentially, it's a process of keeping a gratitude journal as you brush your teeth. The third hands-free journaling hack is actually the practice of texting or telling a friend about one of the best things that happened to you that day. A really common one is telling someone a funny story. So it can be someone that's in bed next to you, it can be your child, or you could be texting your mum, telling them the funniest story that happened to you that day. Or if you learned something really profound that you wanted to share, that also works really well. You can kind of choose the thing that works for you, but make it the same practice every single day. You know that on your bus on the way home from work, you text a friend saying this funny thing happened, or oh my gosh, I learned this. So to summarise, your 3 hands-free journaling hacks are the total recall, going through your day chronologically as your head hits the pillow, brushing your teeth, remembering the 3 best things that happened to you that day, and texting or telling a friend about the funniest thing that happened or something amazing that you learned that day. So I really hope that you enjoyed this session on journaling for mental health. Just to sum up the different practices that I talked you through. The first is classic journal keeping, kind of for the hardcore people out there. The second form is morning pages, really unburdening your soul first thing in the morning just to make way for more creative and positive thoughts. The third method is writing on cue, either in an app or in a diary, responding to very specific questions. And I also talked about hands-free journaling, just hacks, little mental practices that you can do that take up hardly any time at all and still reap the benefits of journaling. As a lifelong lover of diaries, I'm really, really keen to hear how you get on. So please tell me, message me. My Instagram handle is Anna.Hart, that's ANNADOTHART. Please share your cringy diary entries with me. I just feel that the more we kind of share and we talk about this incredibly useful practice for mental health, the better. So hit me up on social media, and thank you so much for doing this workshop.